Hey yo, Mark here for Mark's Max Muscle. And today we're going to review yet another one of the 8 mandatory poses. Now, of course, so far I've gone over the front double bicep, who I selected Arnold Schwarzenegger as my champion. Next in line we had the most muscular, to whom I picked Ronnie Coleman as my overall winner. Next in line was the front lat pose, and of course Dorian Yates reigned supreme in that particular pose. My most recent video was done on the side tricep, and Paul DeMea stood head and shoulders over all the other competitors. Next in line, we have my very favorite pose, and that is the rear double bicep. Now, to make this pose effective, it is my firm belief that the traps really need to be developed to their max potential. Now, how do you get those traps developed fully? Again, in my opinion, good old-fashioned deadlifts. A lot of the great power lifters have very good developed traps, as this gentleman here is displaying. So anyway, as we review bodybuilders starting from the past on into today's athletes, I will again go over and pick my favorites, not necessarily the winner overall. Of course, I never compare athletes from the 50s, 60s, and against today's athletes. Utterly ridiculous to do so. But having said that, the winner will be my opinion, and perhaps not everybody else's. So, on with the show. And we begin with this guy. This is Eugene Sandow. Now, probably not the most impressive thing you've ever seen. But take into consideration, this probably isn't even the 1900s yet. So, probably the best rear double bicep of his time. Here's Melvin Wells. This guy had a real good double bicep shot. He was way ahead of his time. Here's Reg Park. A pretty famous bodybuilder from the 1950s. He had a pretty decent rear double bicep shot. This guy here, on the contrary, had an excellent rear double bicep shot. Notice the thickness in the traps really makes this shot effective. This guy's name is John McWilliams. Here's Bill Pearl, a very famous bodybuilder from the 50s, 60s, even in the 70s. Bill Pearl, one of my favorite bodybuilders of all time. Incredible back double bicep as well. Here's Sergio Oliva. He's actually known for his rear double bicep, as well as his lat poses. But this video is dedicated to the rear double bi. Sergio definitely at the top of many people's lists. Here's Dave Draper, another very famous bodybuilder. Incredible back development. Really liked his rear double bicep shot. I think it would stand up to, and maybe even defeat, this guy here, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Of course, not the best pose for this guy. But here he is in 1974. Probably the best that I've seen of his back. Probably overall his best year here in 1974 at the Olympia. Here's Franco Columbu. He had a very decent rear double bicep. Here he is in 1975 at the Mr. Olympia event, striking the pose like no one else. Here's Boyer Coe. Worth mentioning, I think. Not bad. And Robbie Robinson. He was without a doubt going to be on this list. This is one of his go-to poses. Of course, aren't they all? Now look at this here. Even if you don't like this guy, which of course he is my favorite bodybuilder. But even if you didn't like him, you have to admit this is one of the best back double biceps in history. And here he is, probably in his 60s here. I don't think there's anybody ever that would be able to stand up to Robbie in this pose at that age. Just incredible, a true living legend. Now here's Mike Menzer to your right, and we got Roger Walker to your left. Both men have a decent rear double bi. Here's Tom Platz. He had more than a decent rear double bicep shot. I was quite impressed with this, actually, and quite surprised. I had no idea his rear double bicep shot was quite as crisp as it was fully developed. Of course, Tom Platz known for his legs. Here's Bill Grant, I believe his name is. Not the most famous guy out there. Definitely a strong pose for him, though. Not bad, Billy. Now, here's Samir Banu. Now, try to find a weakness in this pose here, in this guy. You're probably not going to. One of the best for sure. Here's Jorma Raddy. Not sure if I got that name correct. Never heard tell of this guy before making this video. Pretty good low lats. Very thickly developed. As well as this guy here, Lee Haney, known for his back development. Of course, he's not my favorite in this list. Here's Mike Christian. He surprised me a little with his back development. Not bad. And this guy here really surprised me. This is Mighty Mike Quinn. I've definitely heard of this guy, but I failed to realize his rear double bicep shot was just incredible. Not bad at all. Here's Mohamed Benaziza. One of the best backs of all time, I would say. How thickly developed his lower lats insert to his lower back here. It's an incredibly genetically desired trait. Here's Sean Ray. Not bad. A little bit better here in his later years. Here's Flex Wheeler. Definitely not the best back of all time, but as far as this pose is concerned, my humbled opinion, Flex Wheeler has one of the best rear double bis I've ever seen. And I'm not being objective here, because Flex Wheeler is definitely not one of my favorite bodybuilders. But when it comes to this rear double bicep shot, it's really as symmetrical, as aesthetic as it comes. Not bad at all. Now, Dorian Yates, he's definitely regarded as having the best back development of all time. But here at Mark's Max Muscle, we have to be objective, and I can't just regurgitate other people's opinions, because what would be the point? In my opinion, he's not as symmetrical as he could be. He definitely has a lot of thickness back there. He definitely ranks high in my list, but he ain't up there at the top, that's for sure. Here's Jean-Pierre Fuchs. Look how thickly developed this guy's lats are. One of the big mass monsters from the 90s. Here's Charles Claremont, an aesthetic guy. He had a pretty decent back development. Not bad at all. Here's Chris Cormier. Pretty solid bodybuilder. Not the best. Here's Aaron Baker. Aaron Baker's back development was quite impressive. In this shot here, I think this rear double bi could stand up to almost any bodybuilder of his time. Aaron Baker, very impressive. Here we got Mike Francois. And here's Ronnie Coleman. Now, much like Dorian Yates, he's going to be at the top of everybody's list. But, like I said, I can't just regurgitate other people's opinions, and I got to go by my own, and Ronnie Coleman is not the best, in my opinion. He is pretty symmetrical here, but it's earlier on in his career, and he didn't quite have the thickness and the lats that he did later on, like in this picture here. But of course, in this picture, his lat on his left side didn't match his right lat, so his symmetry was down. And here he is a little bit later on in his career, and it's getting a little bit more evident that his symmetry is way down here by this point. But having said that, Ronnie Coleman definitely has one of the greatest backs of all time. Now, talk about symmetry. It's pretty hard to find any fault in this back here. This is, of course, Dexter the Blade Jackson. Just near perfect symmetry. Unbelievable. Here we get Art Atwood. Almost cartoonish. This guy's lower lats are just incredible. Genetically speaking, this guy could have had the greatest back development of all time. Just incredible. Unbelievable. There's never been a back like this before, ever in bodybuilding. Art Atwood, true legend. Here's Melvin Anthony. On the other side of the token, he's all about the symmetry and proportions and things like that. Get quite a bit of flow in this pose. Now, here's a new feature I'm just going to add in my videos. I'm going to throw in some female bodybuilders. So here's Iris Kyle. Just incredible rear double bicep shot. This beats a lot of the guys on this list. Iris Kyle, a true legend in bodybuilding. And of course, a little tidbit here. She has more Olympia titles than anybody alive. Of course, she has 10 Miss Olympia titles. There's a little tidbit of information not a lot of people know. Here's David Henry. Not the widest of lats, but very thickly and complete in this pose. So it's a pretty strong pose for him. Here's Kai Green. A lot of people are a fan of Kai Green, as am I. But this shot is probably second to this guy here, Phil Heath. Now, I'm definitely not a huge fan of Phil Heath, but I got to give him his due. And this back double bicep shot here, it definitely not only stands up to guys like Dorian Yates and Ronnie Coleman, in my opinion now, but it actually edges them out, including Kai Green. But on with the list. Now here's a guy here that's trying to give Phil Heath a run for his money. Lately, especially lately. This is Mamdouh Elsbaye, or simply known as Big Ramy. Here's Cedric McMillan. He surprised me with his back development, in particular his lower back. Incredible Christmas tree. Cedric McMillan. He needs to bring up a little bit more size, and I really think he could give Phil Heath a run for his money in the back shots. But anyway, here's Josh Lenardowitz. Not too bad. One of the new Hungry Lions. But that pretty much finishes up my list. And you guessed it, it's time to decide on a Marks Max Muscle rear double bicep champion. Now, this is a tough one. I really had to dig down deep and go with my gut on this one. I couldn't really just pick what other guys pick on their lists, which I was tempted. And of course, this guy here was first on a lot of people's lists, Dorian Yates. And as he is incredible in this pose, like I said, his symmetry's not quite perfect. And of course, here's Ronnie Coleman, who in my opinion might be a little bit better than Dorian, depending on the year. But then I have to look at this guy here, Phil Heath. See, if it was up to me, I would have to say that he beats both of these guys in this pose. So, there you have it. No, I don't think so. I'm not going to go with any of these guys. Believe it or not, I'm going to go with him, Samir Banu. That's right. Believe it or not, I'm going to pick Samir Banu. May not be as incredibly developed as some of these other guys, but you have to take into consideration now. This is 1983. And just look at that Christmas tree. It's from head to toe. Samir Banu is just incredible in this pose. And there you have it. He is my winner. He is my pick. He is the Marks Max Muscle rear double bicep champion, Samir Banu. Well, that about does it for the rear double bicep pose. My next video devoted to the 8 mandatory poses will be done on the ab and thigh. Definitely not a favorite of the more modern bodybuilders. So probably more focused in on the golden era of bodybuilding. So it should be interesting. Keep an eye out for that one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did. And that's it for now. This is Mark for Mark's Max Muscle.